Very good, yes. And even
The January 9 meeting of the Urbana Free Library Board of Trustees will come to order. Roll call.
Dean Williams. Anna Merritt.
here.
Chris Shearer.
Here.
Jeff Bent.
Here.
Barbara Jones.
Here.
Jared Miller.
Here.
We're missing Beth Scheid and Michael Weissman. And
And Barbara.
Bennett.
And Barbara has laryngitis or something and is not able to be sworn in tonight, so that's why
So
I
I don't,
jumped
okay,
over.
I was wondering.
Are there any additions, corrections, modifications to the agenda, other than that one?
Okay.
If not, we will, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? It isn't called the consent agenda this time, but it is.
I'll move approval.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. We will have an executive session, and should we call for that now? Is that why you've got it on the order there, Celeste?
It doesn't, that's in case, we just keep that on there in case there needs to be one, but we
But
already
we will
have
be
one.
calling for, okay,
Yes.
okay. Public comment. Do we have public? Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
Mr. Mark Nadler.
Yes. Hey, let's stand here. I can't remember saying, but it's been on board for 15 years, 10 on the school board, 5 years. You get the phone, you're saying something, we're looking at you. Anyway, if you can't understand me, tell me to slow down. One of the problems I have with Parkinson's is too many words and too little air. So, just let it out. So, anyway, I want to thank y'all for what you do and how you serve the community. I've enjoyed being on the board for 5 years, but I had to recognize this resolution you guys voted on last week, for that meeting. Give me credit for a whole lot of things I didn't do. I did two things, really. One was, I fell involved on a search committee, and when we hired a director, I saw Celeste giving a talk in Ann Arbor, about what the Ann Arbor Library did. It was a search committee kind of love, but you know, we brought you here, you worked, and you and the people who worked with you and stuff. Not me. I just sat there and voted yes. I guess the second reason I want to come tonight is to dispel rumors that, like Mark Twain, of my, received by my M and I's here, as it was Chris saw a couple days, a week, months ago when I came by, is partisan person without the doping words off. When doping words off, you can't do anything. When doping is on it, you can do anything. So I'm there with that. It's easy to say because I know all of you guys are great people. I wish we had a slightly different board. We had, I wish we had an opportunity to get younger people up here. I was very comfortable with you all because we're all the same age and we're all pretty much the same background. But we need to change that. I hope you can do that for the next few seats that open up. And that's saying nothing which to complain about, criticize anybody in particular, but it's going to be a good thing to do. I guess the only other thing I would take credit for is Katie's meetings told. I think what did it when we had those big meetings a few years ago was watching the audience take televising themselves and put it out. It was like we have to take control. We've been televising, we've got to take control. Use the media to reach out to people. Try to get live. That was hard with all the competition out there. But I'll stop there. Thank you all very much. It was a pleasure serving with you, and I'll be back.
Thank you, Mark, very much. You're right, the consent agenda. I just had to point out to me the consent agenda is on here, and Jeff pointed that out to me. Okay. Presentations. We have is this the presentation from the audit? Oh, it's, okay. Go ahead, yeah. Let's see.
Hello.
Can you hear?
Can you hear?
I can hear you.
Okay, we hear you.
Great. You ready for me to go?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Please.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me tonight. My name is Joel Lightcap. I'm a partner with Baker Tilly, and I performed the partner review of your financial statements for the year ended June 30th, 2017. There's a couple of reports that I'll go over tonight. One is the financial statements of the library, and the other one is the communications with those charged with governance and management. I'll be going over at a very high level, so if you have any questions, feel free to stop me at any time. I'll start off with the financial statements of the library. I'll start on page I, which is the independent auditor's report, just a couple of pages in. This is our opinion on the financial statements of the library. And once again, we issued a clean or unmodified opinion on the library's financial statements, which states that the financial statements are reasonable in all material respects and can be reasonably relied upon by an outside user. The next piece of the financial statements that I want to go to is the management's discussion and analysis. This is right after that MD&A tab. Page 1, begins on page 1. This is the synopsis of the year by management. A good high-level comparison of financial information compared to the prior year, written by management. You had only 10 minutes to figure out what happened at the library during the year. This is where I would direct you. It's well put together, it's very easily readable. It's for the basic users of financial. It's really easily readable, so I'm going to kind of skip past that and get into some of the numbers real quick, which start on page 12. This is the statement of net position for the library. It's probably one time in the year, the one spot where you see all of the funds of the library and all of the assets and liabilities of the library in one spot. So the capital assets, land, buildings, equipment, as well as any long-term liabilities, compensated absences. So at net position at the end of the year for governmental activities was $11,255,000. For the component unit, the library foundation was $370,000. On the following pages, you can see the change in the income statement for all of the funds combined. And on the bottom right on page 14, the change in net position for the library was $475,421, and for the foundation was $308,751. It's good to see the net position increase on an annual basis. 1 year doesn't mean everything, but as a positive trend going in an upward direction, it's always good. Let's skip ahead to page 17. This is the revenues and expenditures of the library on a fund level, so your general fund, trust fund, and then your non-major governmental funds combined. For all of the funds of the library, on the bottom right piece of the page, you can see the fund balance increased by $536,996, and the general funds portion of that was $217,329. So another good positive trend there in the increase in fund balance. One of the things we'd like to look at is how much in the general, or we'd like to point out to the board is how much in reserves in fund balances there in the general fund. At June 30th, 2017, there was 6.7 months in reserve and fund balance, so it can stem the tide for the property taxes in periodically, and it also provides a reserve for any large capital projects that might be necessary for the library. So another positive trend. The rest of the financial statements goes into the notes of the financial statements, which gives good detail on some of the activity during the year and just further describes the line items in the financial statements. It's a lot of detail, but it's a good spot if you're looking for more information on any one of the numbers. Also, there's a bunch of actual schedules and that. But as far as the financial statements, that's all I had as the highlights for the year, unless there are any questions on the financial statements. I can go into the management letter.
Does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask at this time? Have you all had this last couple days?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. No questions.
Chris, I just have one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is there, I know you can't see them over here on the
Hi.
side. Is there any indication for trend lines from the past few years, maybe 3 or 4 years in this document in particular? I'm only asking because I'm new to the board, so I'm not familiar with the long-term financial outlook of the Urbana Free Library.
So there isn't any trend, long-term historical trend information for the library here. You have to kind of look back at the previous financial statements to see kind of the trends. I don't have that in front of me at the moment, but you could go back to the prior financial statements and kind of look at the numbers I went through just now and see how they fluctuated from year to year. Is it custom practice not to look at year-to-year trends in these audits? Well, we look at trends compared to the prior year, but for a longer-term perspective, from past 5 years, we tend not to get that far into it unless something pops up in the current year that we need to look at further. Okay. Thank you.
But as you say, when something pops up, but we know that there are some capital projects. And so that doesn't, as long as there's no red flag, we know it's planned for, that sort of thing. The audit will continue to roll along without raising red flags.
Right, and if we see like an increased expenditures in capital projects, we'll dig into those accounts and we'll look at invoices just to make sure that the payments were reasonable, and there were invoices to support the payments.
Anybody else have any questions? It's a lot to take in. I know that's the problem. I felt of it.
It is.
And of course, one of the things in defense of you folks, you're fairly new with our audit, so there has been a change, and we're doing things differently. And the next year, because some of these are boilerplate kind of comments that you made, will be corrected when we go in the new accounting system.
Right. So
And that's mentioned
the
in this
internal
other
control
document.
comments that we give on the management letter, you're right. They're very similar to what you've seen in the prior year based on your situation, your operations at the library. They are consistent year to year, and that is pretty common with the small size of the finance department and the age of the general ledger package that the library uses. And as you said, there are some good features in the new software that you have that should mitigate a lot of these conflicts we've had in the report, but also to the library's credit, there's been a lot of, we give comments, and there's been a lot of improvements by the library to look at what they can do outside of the system, what compensating controls, monitoring controls be put in place so that while there may be one person doing a lot of the pieces of a transaction cycle, there's other eyes looking at it from a review standpoint. So credit should be given to the library for that, to work outside of the system and the constraints, financial constraints of the business office to make sure that that's happening.
And that will be taken care of. I see that we don't necessarily have to approve this until we're later in the agenda. Do you want to, while he's still on the phone, approve this maybe? Take this out of order? Can we do that?
We have this other document.
Oh, the other
to talk
document.
about.
You're right. Okay. Why don't you go to the
Okay.
communication?
So this is the communication, those charged with governance and management. And it serves a few purposes from our audit standards. The first one being the report on internal control that we were just talking about a second ago. We look at internal controls to plan our audit, not to give you an opinion on internal controls, but if we were looking at your procedures to determine the nature, timing, and extent of what we're going to do, if there's anything that pops out that we feel that the board should be aware of, we put that in this letter. And there's various levels of various levels of risk. So we have material weaknesses. So because of certain controls may not be in place at the library, there's the potential for financial statements to be materially misleading. And there's only one such comment this year, which is there were 2 last year. So that's where I was talking about the increase in compensated controls at the library. One of the comments went down to a significant deficiency, which is less severe of a weakness. It feels like something that we control deficiency that we feel is necessary for the board to see. So like I said, these comments are here because of the size of the business office and the library management, and because of the systems in place at the library, which, as you mentioned, will be improved upon this year for the next audit. So really, these comments are kind of very similar to the prior year. I wasn't going to go over them in great detail unless you had read them and had certain questions on certain things. And the rest of the document outside of internal controls, there's some communication that we're required to have with the board. So we work with management to perform the audit, but if the board ever has any questions or concerns, we work for you. So please feel free to reach out to us, relay any questions you may have so that we can address those during our audit, kind of a forward-looking letter. And then also there's a piece of the letter that if there were any disagreements with management or problems performing the audit, those would be outlined in the letter as well. And happy to report that there are no such instances in the letter. It's pretty boilerplate on the back end of the report, just things that we're required to communicate, but since there are no issues during the audit, performing the audit, there's pretty boilerplate letter.
Can I assume that, okay, go ahead.
I just have one question. It's actually to Jared and Celeste. Are we, in fact, on track to switch to this, is it called Munis? Is that how you pronounce it?
Go ahead.
In early February?
Well, Becky's the one, she's been putting all her time into it. So yes, February 5th is the alleged planned launch date.
All righty, good.
My
So next
question,
year's letter should be different.
yes.
Okay,
My
good.
question
We
is,
fully expect that to be the case.
is the timeline on this going to be the same next year? I mean, you've been with us now, I think, 2 years. Will it be from July to January again, or can it be done in less time?
Yeah, we can, when we come out, so we do the city and the library together, we can definitely talk to management and see when everything will be ready and when we can come out and come up with a timeline to issue the report. Definitely discuss that to see how much sooner or how quickly we can issue the report.
I don't know what the staff thinks, but it just seems like it's 6-7 months since they've had it in hand, right?
No, we've been working on it together the whole time.
Oh,
We just finished in
you've had to
December.
use the full time.
Yeah, we
So
finished
you
in
don't see the
December.
time frame being changed particularly? Or is it a concern?
Do
I don't think
we
so.
typically come out?
What would be the advantage?
Well, just that we're 7 months into the new year. And this is last year. It's just a
If
question.
there were some serious red flags, I'd
Yeah.
be concerned, but under the circumstances, I guess I'm not.
Well, there's certain financial numbers in there that, because it's on a modified accrual basis, some receivables need to come in and payables need to be paid after year end. So there's a few months before we come in and do the actually do the audit, which is usually September, and then wrap up can take a little bit of time depending on a variety of factors. So and there's certain wrap up procedures that we have to do. I would fully want to work towards getting the report out quicker from when we leave the field. We may not be able to come into the field to do the audit work sooner, just based on the things that have to happen for the library and the city to be ready. But I will definitely work towards limiting the amount of time between when we come out to when we issue the report.
Becky, what's the latest? Did you get financials to pay yet? Are you paying up in September, maybe?
It depends on, yes, how things are coming.
Vendors.
Yeah, I mean, it's usually, but part of it's just getting things pulled together and having it ready to go.
Okay.
There's also, if I could add, there's the looking forward to the future elements of this. And we write ours after the city writes theirs, because they have a bigger picture look at the future of the city, and as a component of the city, I build on theirs. So that's part of why we wait till the city's done, because we use some of their language.
We're waiting on the city, in a
Well,
way.
in part,
In part.
sometimes they have
And will we
finished.
be more dependent now with the new system, maybe on that even?
I think it would be the same.
Be about the same, okay.
So timeline-wise, as far as,
Yeah.
we could get it done sooner, but then I would be missing some information to include in it because I wouldn't have what the city is thinking about right now, the city's, you know.
And I don't think it's critical, I just think, it seems like we're moving on. And now then we have to go back and look, and not that, if there were red flags, like Anna said, I think we'd be more concerned. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, MJ.
Everything?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's it.
All right.
MC, you're on next, so just continue to stay there and do your thing.
All right. Good evening. In your board packet is the latest revision of the tech plan. All updates since last year are in red font at the end of the objectives. I'll answer any questions you had, but first I just wanted to expound a bit more on a few objectives. And so you won't have to flip through all of that. I put this up here.
It got photocopied in black.
as a-
It got photocopied in black.
In black, yeah.
Oh, I apologize.
Online, it's in color.
Yes, sorry. And what's on here is just a few of the ones that are in red. Apologies on that. So the first one I want to touch on was objective E1. And with that, the survey has been finalized, and we will be soliciting responses throughout next week. For the survey, we'll be using a multitude of channels, including social media, going to include information in our notices, our hold notices, overdue notices, and of course on our website. And we also decided to have a free drawing for a Amazon Kindle Fire tablet in hopes of increasing the number of respondents that we need. For E5, with the ticketing system, a decision has been made on the solution to implement for that, and I am hoping to start testing with that within the next month or so. For H1, we still have plans on implementing the room reservation module for the public by the end of the fiscal year, but we also will be doing a system-wide update as well along with that. So we'll be running the latest version of all the services that are provided by eVans, which includes, of course, the room reservation system, but also our online calendar, and also our reading programs such as Summer Reader and 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten. So all of those services will be getting a much needed facelift. It will be an easier user interface. Online content will now be mobile friendly, so people trying to access the calendar on their cell phone will have an easier experience with that. So again, we'll still be implementing room reservation module, but now along with that, some system-wide improvements will be coming along with it. And regarding H9, we decided to add questions to the technology survey regarding instant message and text message reference services. So we believe that that will be some valuable data that we can provide to AYS as they are working towards making progress on that objective as well. Aside from that, everything else was outlined in black in front of you. Were there any questions on anything?
Are you going to discuss your wish list?
Yes, sir. Yep. I will move on to that. Last thing I had was the draft of the technology budget, the technology needs. The first portion there is the
That is in the director's report last page.
At the back of, yes, last page of that.
and that is it.
There you go.
And the first portion is just the budget. Everything is outlined cost-wise, except for the digital signage solution. That was a pretty recent development, but we'll be looking to getting pricing on that. That is a priority and will be implemented next year. And the wish list items are all below. For the budget for next year, there, as I mentioned in the memo that's in the director's report. It's going to be a rebuilding year for a lot of infrastructure, just replacing a lot of networking equipment and upgrading the backup power supply for the server room and things of that nature. So nothing overly exciting except for the digital signage, but just making sure everything stays running smoothly.
So there's nothing critical, nothing that you're panicking about, like chillers and boilers and,
No, ma'am.
We're worried
So
about
hoping not to get to that point. So being proactive with the replacements and upgrades here.
the
How do-
unfortunate thing about being proactive is that that automatically makes people sort of sit back and say, oh, well, in that case. Sometimes it's good to be at a critical stage. Sorry.
In terms of proposed budgets or planning budgets, how much of this is possible? I mean, I look at, down here under your wish list, the first 3 items as maybe being fairly important. And that's not just a wish list. Maybe we should be looking at some of those. So are these ranked? And my first question, I guess, to Celeste is, where are we budgeting? How much of this can we do?
We haven't started the budget yet. This is part of the budget process, which is receiving requests about facilities and about IT.
In
and
terms
other
of what
needs.
we've budgeted in the past for IT, how does this stack up?
If we were to do the whole thing, it's more than we have set
Yeah.
aside before. The 59,000 at the top is very doable as far as what we've done in the past.
Okay.
What I don't know right now is how much money the library is expecting from the levy. So I don't have our baseline biggest funding source yet.
Does anybody, or maybe you can tell us, I like these 3 items, the scanners, mobile scanners, the 2 monitors. I can see 2 monitors. I mean, I've worked with, well, Celeste has 2 on her desk, and it's very helpful. Those are pretty important when people are doing work. And can they wait if we have to?
Yes, excellent question. So to answer the question you previously asked, those are ranked in order of importance.
Okay.
So top to the bottom. As far as the dual monitors for archive staff, I actually spoke with Anka about that. As he said, there was one person in particular that's a priority, so even if we can't get it for the whole department, we will make sure to at least get that one person
Okay.
set up with the dual monitors.
That makes sense.
Our cataloger.
It's in your department, yeah.
Yes.
I had a question. I'm assuming that none of the archives wish list are necessary for that grant you got.
No.
Could they be? No.
I mean, the grants, everything for the Community Webs grant is online. There's no IT requirement change in our,
Just,
which is good.
yep. Thanks.
Do we presently have barcode readers so that things are being read barcode? Okay, because I thought if we aren't there, that would be higher than I would expect.
Yes, so actually that second one, the barcode scanners for mobile screens, that's actually been requested by a few different staff members, some of which were just funneling feedback from patrons, but just that is what everyone is going towards, having your store
mobile
cards
screens.
and your,
Yeah.
everything on your mobile screen. So standard barcode scanners can't scan cell phones.
Can or cannot?
Cannot. So you have to buy certain types of barcode scanners that can actually scan a cell phone screen or an LCD screen, things of that nature. So that, in particular, is what that's for. So yes, we don't have any areas that don't have any barcode scanners, but none of our barcode scanners can scan cell phones. So this is a hope of being able to kind of take that next step where, again, patrons are going towards being walletless and just having everything on their phone. So this would be what we need to kind of take that step forward. Yes, sir.
So, sorry if I missed it in here, but you had this sort of standards thing that you gave us a presentation on, the sort of where you have to fill in all these data items and then they rate you. Are any of these meant to take care of some of your deficiencies there, or is that a thing of the past?
That, so we, that was for, it was an EDGE, that was the EDGE
Yeah.
assessment, and we had it for the 1 year, and then the state was, the state library was paying for it, and they pulled that back. So the next year, when I did the presentation, I just used the data that we had for the previous year and just updated things we had changed. I had not planned on doing anything this year. I'm kind of keeping track myself, but if that's something that would be helpful, I definitely can put some information together to.
So we're just not required to do it now, or?
Nope.
Okay.
Other questions? This is tremendous. This is tremendous. To see it all in front of us at one time, price tag and.
Sorry, one more thing. The top one there, the public scanning solution for archives, we actually are demoing a kind of self-serve scanning system. It's up on the second floor. I think we've had it maybe 3-4 weeks now. Patrons who've been giving us feedback have loved it, and archive staff loved it so much. They said they wanted one as well to help them with workflow and things of that nature. So that is something I'm looking into. That may be something we can make happen as well. They have some finance options, so I'm just reaching out now to figure out what the interest rate is, the company that offers the solution. But that definitely is the highest priority of all the wish list items we have, something that can cut down on staff time. The archive is still being remote for plus positions. But if you haven't had a moment to check it out, go. It does everything. You can copy, scan, fax. You can log into your cloud account and it'll automatically upload, put in your USB. It'll copy there. They can put out a QR code. You can scan it with your cell phone, and your scan pops up on your cell phone. It's a great system.
Either last meeting or 2 meetings ago, I referred to the idea of putting out a wish list to our public. And I think there are items here that would be compatible with that kind of a wish list. When it's $1,500, we might have somebody give us $1,500. Or if it's $4,000, we might have somebody come through with that. So I'd like to see us work at helping this along.
I
And
like that too.
And in the technology survey, again, we'll be rolling out next week. We do have some questions that are along those same lines, asking patrons what it is that they're looking for. Is there something that we don't offer, either a tangible physical product or software on our computers or a service, anything under the sun? So hopefully we'll be able to get some solid responses and some good input from patrons with that.
Wonderful.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Jeff.
Not to be a dead horse,
No,
but
no.
like, are you going to survey the kids that are in the makerspace labs and stuff?
We are going to try to reach everyone we can. All ages. We're going to, hopefully, social media will be able to reach people we would deem as our non-users. Hopefully we can get some feedback as to why they're not coming here, what they're looking for, but all ages, demographics, we're trying to get everyone. So, and actually, speaking of age, that is one of the questions, which is optional. So hopefully we'll be able to kind of spark some of the information to see what the kids and the teens and the adults, what they're looking for.
And I'm sure they're pushing us. Other questions? This is wonderful, MJC. I think this is what we've all felt like we needed. We need one other project this way. Okay, anything else? Did you want to share with us?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
So we approve it, right?
Well, we've got it down to the,
It's later. It's an
well, we've got it in business, it's still for approval, so we'll go on. Action, the consent agenda. For consent agenda consists of the board minutes of December 12, bills of December 13, payroll of December 22, bills of December 27th, and payroll for January 5. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, resolution for the, thank you. resolution for the 1801 respectful work environment policy. We had it last month. There has been, did you hand out, or you've got it?
Yeah.
Anna has made a couple suggestions. It's a word choice. Do you want to explain what it is and
When they have it.
when they have it?
Thank you. My main concern is consistency from the purpose at the very top that says free of all forms. Then I wondered, well, maybe it should be free from. So I did some investigating. As some of you know, I'm in love with the English language, so I love these puzzles. It turns out there is, in fact, a difference between free of and free from. I won't go into what they are because they're very muddy. But free of does seem to be better, and since that is what was in the original document, for the sake of consistency, I suggest that we stick with free of all forms of unlawful discrimination.
Yep.
And the same goes for under comments. Again, change that in the second line from to of.
I think we can consider this to be a
Yeah, it's not
Substantive.
substantive.
change.
Yeah.
We had one other comment, Celeste, from a board member.
Yep, I'm going to read the comment. The person wrote, I think the word knowingly, quote unquote knowingly, should be inserted before unwanted or some equivalent change made. So if you look for the place where it says unwanted.
Where is it?
On what page is that?
I'm looking right
It'd
now.
have to be in
Mark
this
didn't
first
grab
one.
the other copy. Sorry, what I'm seeing is the word unwelcome. So on the first page, there's purpose, policy, and comment. And down under comment, there are the numbers 1, 2, and 3. It says any unwelcome sexual advances or requests for sexual favors. So the question here is, the comment is, I think the word knowingly should be inserted before unwanted or some other equivalent change made. The follow-up statement is that the assurance that the rules would always be applied reasonably and with good judgment does not, I think, substitute for making the rules themselves a close approximation of what is intended. So that was the couple of statements from the person that wanted me to share this. We reached out to the city HR department as soon as we got this to see what their comments were. And the comments were the following. So again, we based ours off of what the city did, changing it for the library's purposes, just the tiniest bit. So the policy as written gives the library the greatest flexibility. The whole object of the policy is to eliminate the harassing conduct. As long as the library responds at the lowest level to maintain a harassment-free work environment, which is what we do, situations as the person described are warned, not acted upon. So, for example, if the concern, this is my sidebar, if the concern is that staff person A harasses staff person B, depending on the level of harassment, we would not fire person A. We would start with a conversation or whatever's appropriate given the level of harassment. And so the library is always giving a warning unless the behavior is so egregious, it must be acted upon immediately. So someone makes an off-color comment or an off sexually explicit comment, whatever, is different than grabbing, touching, assaulting. So we, of course, would need to act at the lowest level appropriate for the particular event and behavior. The unwanted behavior described in the policy is described from the point of view of the person who is acted upon to ensure that the behavior stops. So this policy is written from the behavior of the person who is acted upon. Quote unquote, knowingly can't be a requirement because there could be situations where a person is incapable of knowing what he or she did was wrong. For example, intellectual capacity or someone who has a lack of empathy. Again, the point is to eliminate the conduct from the workplace regardless of the source of the conduct and his or her knowledge of it, knowing that it was wrong. And progressive discipline, which is set up by the library. We have a documented counseling policy, which follows progressive discipline. It's set up so the employer has to take reasonable steps to put employees on notice of behavior standards, i.e. warnings, and make them aware of standards of conduct. So that was the city's response to the request to add knowingly in as a caveat.
And I'm assuming that what HR says is based on federal law or on civil rights law.
Civil rights.
Different
Yeah,
laws
that's what I figured, okay.
to protect the employer and
Right.
the employees
And-
both.
Right, okay.
I would also hate to be the person who had to decide whether it was
Yeah.
knowingly
Knowingly.
or not.
Well, it's
You'd have to
unprovable.
get inside the head of somebody.
Somebody, yeah.
I don't want to have to do that.
No.
I'm not in any position to do that.
Uh,
I'd find that very, very difficult.
yeah.
So it's for you to decide which
Yeah.
changes, if any,
Okay,
you want to
do-
incorporate in the policy.
Do we need to respond to that? That's just a suggestion.
It was a suggestion,
So
just
I-
as Anna's words were suggestions as well. So
Yeah.
you would decide if you're changing the policy as you received it, whether you're
Okay.
changing the two froms to ofs, and whether you are having me add knowingly in a particular place or not. So those are those are the discussion points brought forward by board members.
I don't really see Anna's as being materially changes.
But we can vote on them.
Do you want to make a motion out of it?
Yes, I
Okay.
move that we change in policy, in the paragraph entitled Policy, second line, first word, the word from change to of, and under comments, second line, again, from to of.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Okay, I'm going to not ask for a motion on the other item because I think we've all kind of understood as we walk through it with the HR department of the attorney's office. So now do I have a motion that we approve the work environment policy?
You need to approve the resolution. You have to approve the resolution. That is what you have to do.
We approve this resolution.
10 point, I'm just making sure you're approving the resolution because that's what the state law requires you say those words.
I'll move that we approve resolution 2018-01, approving a respectful work environment policy.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. That's clears that one off. Okay, the budget amendment for FY18. Celeste?
It's in the director's report.
Yep.
And it shifts funds within the archives department, given that they hired a full-time librarian from an internal candidate. Well, we knew it would be an internal candidate. We posted the position internally. The question was who that person would be, and we know who the person is. And so these are shifts that are neutral to the budget. So we just need permission to move the funds around.
So just
So move
move.
approval.
Second to that?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. I thank you for that one. Okay, let's moving on to, whoops. Approval of updating the technology plan as MC has presented to us tonight.
I'll move that we approve the plan.
Moved.
Yep.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Now, the acceptance of the FY17 audit. We're not voting approval, we're voting acceptance. Is there a motion to accept?
I'll move that we accept the FY17 audit from
Is there-
Baker Tilly.
Is there a
Second.
second? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. I thank you on that one. Okay, revision of the bylaws. I don't know whether anybody went back and looked at bylaws. The only thing that we had kind of in question was what was happening right now in terms of Mark leaving our board, leaving it, no?
Sorry, go
That's,
ahead.
that's in the bylaws, though.
Yeah, yes, it is. What I was going to say is the question that this, just for the TV camera, the question that's in the per capita is after reading chapters 1 through 5 and discussing them, which you did with the Jeopardy quiz last month,
Yeah,
the question that we have to answer in the per capita report is, describe the board's plan to modify or create bylaws as a result of the review. So that is the topic of the discussion. Do you plan to modify or create bylaws? You already have them, so. And I had pointed out that every 3 years, you
Oh,
evaluate
yeah.
your bylaws.
Okay.
And they are due to be reviewed by this December. So you can choose to review them sooner and modify them, or you can choose to review them within the normal cycle, which would, I put a schedule forward as a potential September, October, November, or December. So
but they could be amended at any time.
they sure could.
Sure, it's in
And
the,
you could
it's,
do any of that.
that's
but
part of the
The
bylaws.
question we have
Yeah.
to make sure that you discuss as a board so we can say you did, because you would have.
Jared, they were most unfamiliar to you. Did you see things that were glaring?
Not atypical to any other bylaws that I've read before. I mean, they certainly are written for the Urbana Free Library.
Yeah.
They certainly are appropriate to this body, so
Barbara, you
nothing
have
stood
a
out to me in
question?
particular.
I was just going to say that based on my participation in the game and everything, and the discussion, I didn't see anything that would warrant changing anything before a scheduled revision. That's my comment.
Any other thoughts, Anna?
My only comment is, I'm in a very small minority of people, probably in the entire world, that thinks that people serving on boards and commissions ought to read their bylaws at least once every 2 years. 3 years is probably not enough. It is the set of guidelines for what we do, what we're supposed to be thinking about, and you do get new people, and
Yeah.
maybe they read them, maybe they don't really understand them, but they're embarrassed to say, well, what does this really mean? So it's extremely useful to go over them together, and I would urge that we do that, even if no changes are made. But at least we all know what they say and are on the same page, literally and figuratively.
Anybody else have comment? Jeff, did you see anything? You're about the only one that had.
No, I just think we've got a number of people absent tonight, and I think we ought to make it more of a rigorous process rather than just a casual nod. So I think once everybody's back, we can
So you
set up a
wanna
little
table it?
schedule for it and stuff. I'd
Yes.
rather table it, yeah.
Okay.
I
A
think that
motion,
would be excellent.
a motion to table. Is there a second to that?
Second?
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's fine. Thank you. Okay, let's look, Anna, the Friends report,
They don't meet until March,
March, yeah.
still.
The Life Foundation. Celeste, I'm going to have to call on you. I can't think of anything.
The foundation is in its fundraising campaign. The annual
Yeah.
campaign is going on. They've received approximately $45,000 in cash gifts and then a $10,000-ish donation of stocks. So they're primarily focused on what they've talked about in the letter, which is front porch repair, is landscaping funds for the corner lot. Some people have put notes on their checks designating for one or the other. There's also notes in there about potentially funding more time with an intern in the archives for the Chinook collection. So when the funds come in, the foundation will determine how to spend them, working in concert with the library board, of course. Ultimately, for example, the corner lot, that is your decision, what will happen.
For those that are new, this is a very nice year. I mean, it came in. And I think that the foundation has tried very specifically to put in their letter, although I still think it's too long, things that we really need. And the porch was one of them, but that definitely came in a little differently once the engineers looked at it, and so it helps. But I think that foundation has done well this year. Yeah.
We are still accepting checks. The foundation is still accepting checks. The porch may cost $100,000. so that if the library board chooses to move ahead with fixing it, the more money that the foundation raises, the better, because otherwise we'll have to find alternative sources to pay the difference.
Heartland, anything new?
Well, sort of the boring time of the year, they just hired a new share director, of which we're not a member of.
Correct, we are not.
But it is their big, the big part of IHLS, the integrated technology system that they have. And I don't know much about the person. And we approved our sexual harassment policy. So,
Any questions? Let's hear from our director.
I attended the city council meeting last night in which the mayor and Elizabeth Hannon, the finance director, talked through the financial forecast for the next 5 years for the city. I had sent you some links about that, and the actual slides are going to be up on the website soon if they're not already up, because the city's so fast on those things. So I just want to highlight a couple of things that sounded familiar. They mentioned the inadequate investment in infrastructure maintenance. That's something the city is facing, certainly something the library is facing. And again, I want to express my gratitude to the city for last year giving the library $125,000 for the library to be able to replace the boiler. So we are grateful for that assistance and for all the time that the people in the different departments give us of themselves, including the facilities department, which is walking us through the different steps so that we can move ahead with our capital improvements. And then the other big piece was the impact of state decisions on city finances and library finances. So for example, we haven't received the per capita check from last year, which would have been about $32,000, and that hasn't come yet. And so we don't know if we'll get that soon or ever, and we don't know if we'll get the $32,000 we budgeted for this year at all either. So that it's a small part of our budget out of a $4 million budget, but $32,000, especially twice, can do a lot of good. Also, the city talked about looking to increase its reserves fund from being 15% of the general expenditures to 25%. And that is something that as we look ahead with a new financial policy at the library, that's something I think we should consider too. When the auditor talks about on June 30th, the library having so much money in its reserves, what people forget is that we've received more than half of our money for the entire fiscal year in the beginning of June, for the fiscal year that just ended June 30th. So we need to have a very healthy fund balance, because that's the money that gets us through to the next June. There's a September payment as well, but it's not as much. So it looks like we've got all this money, but we don't, because in May, at the end of May, that's really the best date to see where the library's finances are. And for example, we've just received that $300,000 request last year from Vincent Green for building of equipping a low vision room. So we need to make sure that when we get to that May part, we're not dipping into that $300,000 and borrowing from ourselves. We want to make sure that the money we're spending is the money that's not what's in savings for other things. So in any case, I think that looking to increase our reserves to help plan for these capital expenditures will help us in the long run.
Do you want to give us an update on the cooler, or the chiller, and, okay.
I'll just say something briefly, and then if you have questions, and Celeste might also add some more information, because the information is always coming, new information is always coming to us on a daily basis. So as you recall, the CTS group presented the city and library with an investment grade audit, which identified strategies that can assist us in capital costs, minimizing capital costs, and operational energy costs. However, while the city and the library are analyzing and moving ahead with these projects, and there are many of them, many of the city and quite a few of the library, and working with CDS to move these projects forward, we would like to ask the board to have a special meeting before the February 13th meeting in order to move ahead with the chiller replacement process. So we can move that more expeditiously, because the larger CTS project is not going to be moving that fast. And we're concerned that, first of all, that we need to get on the schedule of contractors if we want to have this chiller replaced in time for cooling season. And we also know that the prices that are quoted to us from CTS and the contractors are not good forever. And if we don't act more quickly on them, this project might actually cost us.
Was there a time on the contract or bids?
Well, it's already behind schedule.
way behind schedule.
It was fall.
Ooh,
It was in
but
the
then we
fall.
don't think that they've changed their prices necessarily now.
Not at this point, but
Okay.
they, they are encouraging us.
Do we need to announce that we're going to schedule a special, do we have to do a vote for that we'd have a special meeting? We may just call a special meeting. I guess that's what the issue is. In order to get this one moving, and we don't know when. We really don't have a good idea, do we?
But when it will start.
When it might be, when we might have a special meeting.
We need a couple days. We literally just got paperwork yesterday that we're looking through. We just got a copy of the contract that City Legal has gone through, so we just got it so that we can look through it and see it's 29 pages long. So there are things we have to change, City of Urbana, Urbana Free Library. So we have to answer our own questions amongst ourselves before we feel confident bringing you this information in order to have you make what you feel is a good informed decision. So as early as next week, but I don't know that we can have one by like Friday this week. I think that might be too fast. It depends on your availability. That's one thing we'll have to see.
Can we tentatively plan a week from tonight? Is that too late? That's the 16th, isn't it? Is that too
If
late?
people have their calendars out and want to set a date, that's up to you.
Does it have to be publicly announced?
It will be publicly
Yeah.
announced. It will
We
be,
have to set it 48 hours.
Okay, 48 hours, that's what I didn't know.
Is,
That would be the 16th,
16th?
right? That would be all right for me?
yeah,
It's fine with me, yeah.
I'm just checking the calendar to make sure we got a room.
it would be the 13th, is that what I'm saying?
16th.
16.
16, I've got the wrong calendar. Any concern about that? Let's tentatively then plan on, so that we can let our other board members know. I don't know when Mel,
I'll find out.
the others are coming back, do we know any of them?
I
I don't know their schedule at all. Okay. Let's plan that then, tentatively.
Thank you, and we will keep you informed on the next phases of the project.
We're still pushing for itemization of each thing, aren't we? Each item in the, have we gotten that? No.
Yes, and what I forwarded, so there's two pieces of this for your informational pieces. There's the budget part, and then there's the here are the projects part.
Yeah.
So what Scott tested at the city is he pulled from the entire city's book all the pages with library data and the written text part, and put that into a PDF, which I forwarded to you right before the board meeting. I have permission to share it with you, the board.
Okay.
When we have permission to share it with the public, we will, but right now it's proprietary, and so you have it. We're getting quotes on the different packages, so if we just do the chiller now, what would the other things line up being? So we don't have all that yet, which is again why I can't give it to you, because it's, like Annika said, we're getting new pieces every day.
But our next special meeting is only to consider the chiller.
Yes.
So that's,
Unless we can get the other pieces lined up before then. So for example, if we can give you two packages and you
Okay.
can vote between two packages or both, that would be great. I don't know if
Okay.
we'll have all the data for
Yeah.
you.
I just want to be able to have air conditioning next summer. Anything else, Anka, on it?
No?
No. Thank you for stepping in and doing this. I don't know how you do it, because the mind's got to adjust to that, and you're taking on something that somebody else was doing.
I'm learning a lot, so.
Getting any sleep?
Yes.
Okay, good. That's what matters.
I have one concern in your report, Celeste, is has there been any consideration for the pancake breakfast, the overnight of having stuffed animals with bed bugs and fleas and such? Is that a concern?
It has not been a concern in the past, and kids bring their stuffed animals in with them during the day. So we have not, when we have found bed bugs, it has not been involving the kids' stuffed animals.
It just hit me when I read that. I
It's a
thought,
fair question.
we're bringing in, and they're, as I understand it, the toys are staying overnight, the kids are not.
That is correct. It's adorable too. They do take pictures of the animals on the computer, reading storybooks, and they have a
I knew that.
slideshow
I want to do it.
for next month.
Now, can staff, board members bring their
You have your
animals?
favorite teddy bear?
I do.
Who wants to come?
And my Raggedy Ann.
On a more serious note. What? I meant to mention it when you were talking about money before, but, so this new tax cut bill law, federally, I was reading somewhere, and I don't remember where I read it, that some of the states that are hardest hit for this, the penalty for real estate taxes, are trying to develop this thing where you could give money directly to the library, and that would be taken off your tax bill, but then it would be a donation rather than a tax bill. Have you heard this?
I have not, and I will look it up. Unless, if you got something to point me to, that'd be great.
It was probably in the New York Times, but it's sort of early in the process, but it may be that there are convoluted kind of ways to try to get around this, some of which may profit us,
Yeah.
that people might be able to give us money and consider it a,
I will say that because the county accepted early taxpayers, I think there would be a real fight on our hands if it doesn't work for us. So those of you who have paid either all or part of your taxes, I think you're going to be safe. I mean, that's a judgment, but I think the county did accept. They didn't have assessments out, but they accepted the checks. So I don't know.
The county will always take your money. They're not going to say no to your money.
That's true, too. Is there any other questions about Celeste's report? If not, let's move on to, I have nothing particularly to add. Unfinished business.
The 15th?
Nominating committee.
Oh, the nominating committee. I'm looking at the wrong one. Dang it, I'm sorry. The nominating committee report for the vacancy which Mark created.
Okay, so we had an open public meeting at 6:45 tonight to approve the two scheduled meetings, which one was tonight, and then the next one is April 10th, 2018. Tonight's meeting was to nominate somebody to finish out Mark's term until April, at which time the entire slate, an entire slate will be presented. And so we met, and we would recommend the following slate to replace Mark. As vice president would be Beth Scheid. Did I say it right, Scheid? That was a unanimous.
She actually volunteered.
Yes. She told me, at least, maybe you too, Jane, that she wanted to do it. So, hey,
And I see no reason to remove her from the secretary.
Right.
Because we have a secretary pro tem, and so that can be taken care of, and we're talking about 3 months, so,
Yeah.
at the most. So I see that, and we cannot vote on this until next month, so we will
She's
still.
not here tonight, so if you're not here, you get drafted.
Right.
That's the way it always works, Jane. Okay, any other unfinished business? If not,
Do we have to approve that?
No,
It's just a
I don't think
report
so.
from the nominating.
Yeah,
Don't
it's
we
just
have to
right.
vote?
All right.
Sure.
Huh?
I mean, it's just a report. Now we need
Yeah.
to,
All right.
No, we can't vote on the nomination yet.
Because we don't have enough.
Well, we'd have enough.
We have enough people.
But it's
Can't vote until
it's
the next-
announced,
Oh.
am I right? It has to be announced 1 month prior to.
Okay, got it,
Vote
got
on
it.
it next, yep. That's in the bylaws,
Yep.
as the Chris was saying
Okay.
earlier.
Can we vote at the special meeting?
Ooh,
You
we
could.
could,
That's,
yeah. That would move it up.
all right.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, please.
I'd like to move that we, pursuant to 5 ILCS 120 to C21, for the purpose of the approval of closed session minutes and a semi-annual review of our closed session minutes as mandated by subsection 2.06, that we go into closed session.
Is there a second to that? Roll call.
That was impressive.
Barb, did you second it? I thought you
Second.
did. I thought you did.
That's what it
Roll call.
means, right?
Jane?
Yes.
Yes?
Chris?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
And Jared?
Yes.